Chosen ones, welcome. This is your moment. This is the era where the underestimated rise, where the silent brilliance of the quiet one commands the room without needing to demand it. You've always been steps ahead, and now the world is forced to catch up. Funny how life works, isn't it? The same voices that once dismissed you, the same eyes that overlooked you, are now wide open in disbelief. They're witnessing what they refused to see all along, your undeniable greatness. It's hitting them like a storm they never saw coming. The truth is, people often fail to value someone until that person is out of reach. They weren't just blind. They chose to be. They sensed your potential but ignored it out of fear, envy, or simple ignorance. Now, reality is serving them a plate full of regret. But you always knew. You kept moving, kept growing, kept proving yourself without the need for their validation. And now, standing in the spotlight, crowned by your own perseverance, you are exactly where you were meant to be. Let them watch. Let them wonder how they missed it. Because, chosen one, this is your time to shine. This goes beyond retaliation and validation. It's not merely a case of "I told you so." This is about recognizing that they knew you were the one the whole time. All they wanted was for you to not figure it out. However, the roles have now been reversed. Let's face it, if history weren't so terrible, it would be comical to see people rush to change it. Hold on tight, because we're going to get into the reasons for their abrupt "oh shit" moment about you today. You won't ever question yourself again after this, I promise. First of all, they only saw the mirror of their own fears, and never you. People ignored you because you made them uncomfortable, not because you were not unique. They were alarmed that you didn't fit into the mold they had in mind. In actuality, they saw your potential, but chose to act as if you didn't exist. They saw too much of themselves in you and didn't like the similarity, not that you were missing anything. You made individuals face what they weren't every time you entered a room. They silently wished they had your drive, depth, and fortitude. However, many felt exposed rather than motivated. They weren't prepared to accept their own inadequacies, not that you weren't good enough. The simplest method to handle that? Pretend you're not a danger, minimize you, and ignore you. Consider how often you were treated, as if you were invisible, despite the fact that you contributed something worthwhile. They listened to your thoughts, yet rejected them. Despite seeing your efforts, they pretended they were inconsequential. Not because they failed to see your genius, but rather because they would have to acknowledge their own lack of talent if they did. But because you persisted, it's now striking them like bricks. They don't know how to deal with the fact that you're becoming indisputable since you continued changing. The remorse is killing them, and they can't ignore you any longer. They understand that they ought to have helped you, acknowledged you, and treated you differently. However, they squandered time by underestimating the one who was supposed to outgrow them. They were too preoccupied with avoiding their own reflection to see you back then. However, they are now compelled to acknowledge the fact that you were the one the whole time, despite their best efforts to act differently. The second is that they held you close to regulate your light, not because they loved you, not because they detested you, but rather because they were afraid of losing power. Some individuals never wanted to see you succeed. Instead of supporting you, they made sure you remained near enough for them to watch you, because they saw your potential long before you did. However, you will never outgrow them. Under the guise of encouragement, they kept you around, while really preventing you from realizing your full potential. They never gave you enough confidence, but they did give you enough to prevent you from leaving. They wanted you in their group to keep you in check, rather than to elevate you, because they could maintain their position over you as long as you had self-doubt. Consider this. How many times did they minimize your victories? How often did they cause you to doubt yourself? It never happened by accident. They were frightened by whatever they saw in you. They recognized the brilliance, the fire, and the tenacity. And they understood that if you ever fully grasped your potential, you would turn into something they couldn't manage. Although they referred to it as guidance, it was really discouragement disguised as worry. They offered you backhanded comments that were just subtle enough to make you question yourself, but their true meaning was, "Don't outshine me." They advised you to be realistic. They pretended to be on your side the whole time. Now that you're awake, however, it's striking them like bricks. Despite the deception, you took control of your situation. They're panicking now. They no longer have the same control. They seeded doubts in you, but they didn't take hold. And to make matters worse, you no longer need them. The fact that they are unable to contact the person they attempted to keep at bay is what scares them the most. Number 3, your hardships were your refining, not a punishment. Life wasn't treating you unfairly, and you weren't being punished. You were being prepared for something greater by the hardships you endured. They weren't arbitrary. However, it seemed like you were being pulled through hell pointlessly, since you were not yet aware of the whole picture. Life appeared to keep hitting you down no matter how hard you tried, while others seemed to have it easier. You were unaware that your struggles served as a training ground. You were becoming stronger as a result of every setback, rejection, and betrayal. The universe was ensuring that you were prepared, not working against you. Because the type of power you possess must be earned. It cannot be given to anybody. Consider the individuals who had everything given to them and who never had to deal with true hardship. Now, where are they? The minute life becomes difficult, the majority of them fall apart, as they were never intended to be pressure resistant. However, you were forced to develop resilience. Without a safety net, you had to deal with suffering, loss, and disappointment. You're unstoppable now. Those who questioned you believed that you were weak and suffering. You were, nevertheless, being fortified in ways they can never comprehend. You were being polished while they were becoming settled. They are now seeing that they lack the mental, emotional, and spiritual fortitude to deal with their own difficulties. However, you do, as you've already survived the fire and emerged polished. It all makes sense now that you're taking charge of your life. You understand why certain things didn't work out, why some people left, and why you had to put up with so much. It was always preparation rather than punishment. The same individuals who formerly denigrated you are now acknowledging that they could never have made it through what you endured. Fourth, their defection was their last desperate deed and was not a mistake. Those closest to you are the ones that betray you, not your foes. The people who feigned support, grinned in your face, and seemed to have your back, but were really observing, waiting, and planning all along. They saw your development and tenacity, and they were aware that they would fall behind you once you completely realized your potential. They were frightened by it. They thus made a last, desperate attempt to shatter you rather than applauding you. They sought to turn people against you by lying, sabotaging, and twisting stories. In the hopes that it might discolor you sufficiently to slow you down, they put dirt over your name. In actuality, they did not betray you by chance. They had no other choice. Therefore, they took this action. This was their last effort to control your fate, because all previous attempts to keep you little had failed. The mistake they made, however, was assuming you needed them. They believed that by isolating you, alienating others, and attempting to damage your reputation, you would fall apart. They thought they could control you. They were unaware, however, that treachery was your breakthrough rather than your breaking point. It liberated you rather than destroyed you. Who was genuine and who wasn't was exposed. You became stronger than ever as a result of being forced to stand alone. You didn't just survive, you flourished, and now it's striking them like bricks. You were just made closer to your destiny by all they attempted to thwart you. And what's worse for them, The fact that they played themselves is something they must accept. Instead of standing by your side, they turned themselves into the antagonists in a tale in which you were destined to prevail. Fifth, they didn't desire you until they realized how much you were admired by others. It's strange how people's opinions of you may alter depending on who is watching, not on who you are. They ignored you, disregarded you, and treated you as an afterthought when they believed you to be just another regular person. However, they instantly recalled your name as soon as they witnessed others complimenting you. They suddenly showed you respect. They wanted to be with you again all of a sudden. Let's face it, though. They never really questioned you. They didn't want to admit it until the world made them. But they always knew you had something unique. They were too conceited, too naive, or too insecure to recognize it for themselves. Not because you weren't valued before. They therefore waited for external confirmation, for another person to inform them of what was already clear. Now that you no longer need them, it's striking them like bricks. There is no longer the version of you who yearned for their acceptance. They see others applauding you, standing with you, and realizing what they previously disregarded. They now want to re-enter. However, they fail to see an important fact. They can no longer reach you. People who arrive late to the celebration are not rewarded. Those who required a reminder that they were valuable are not welcome back. Before you were in the limelight, the true ones recognized your worth. They were there while you were still constructing, still working things out, still in the trenches. The ones that arrive now, they are here for what you have become, not for you. The problem is that they made their decision. They didn't stand by your side when they could have. They want to act as if they've always supported you now that you're on the rise. However, it's too late. They may now observe from the sidelines, since they didn't want you until the world did. Sixth, you served as the model, and others ridiculed you while stealing your ideas. They rejected you, laughed at you, and even referred to you as insane. They won't tell you, however, that they were taking notes all while. They acted as if your ideas were absurd, yet they were secretly observing, researching, and stealthily taking. The original source, the one who saw the vision before everyone else did, was you, the blueprint. And they made fun of you rather than stand by you, until they saw that you were correct. They first made fun of you because they were frightened by your ideas. You had a viewpoint they couldn't comprehend, and you moved and thought differently. They rejected you as unrealistic rather than acknowledging that they lacked the same insight. However, they secretly knew you were right. Before they could figure out how to claim it as their own, they prayed that no one else would notice it. They are now being struck hard because they are attempting to make money off of the exact thing they attempted to stifle. What they took from you was the cornerstone of their success. They are prospering from your vision, but they are unable to really appreciate it, as they know in their hearts that they did not create it. Knowing that the person they made fun of is the same person they secretly look to for inspiration means they must live with the guilt. But the truth is always revealed in its entirety. Stealing never lasts. Because its basis was based on imitation rather than innovation, it is weak. And their mask is coming off as you keep getting higher and people begin to see where the ideas really originated. They cannot deny that they benefited from your genius, while also harboring doubts about you. They believe that by claiming credit for your vision, they might undo your influence, but they fail to see that you are the original creator, and they will never be you, no matter how much they strive to be like you. Seventh, you were being concealed for a greater good, not discarded. Rejection served as protection rather than a curse. The world was keeping you hidden until the appropriate time, not because it was cruel. People weren't permitted to notice your grandeur, not that they didn't see it. because you would have been besieged by people who merely wanted to take advantage of you if you had been identified too soon. Consider this. How many lives have been destroyed by untimely success? Their big break came too soon, before they had a firm grasp on who they were and could tell who was genuine and who wasn't. And what took place? They were devoured. Before they had an opportunity to completely embody their goal, they lost themselves, trusted the wrong people, and fell into the wrong circles. You weren't going to experience it. You were destined to maintain your success, not just achieve it. You would have been surrounded by opportunists, manipulators, and people who just regarded you as a resource if you had been hailed before you were ready. You would have been exhausted, distracted, and maybe even derailed by them. So you were concealed by the cosmos, not to punish you, but to protect you. It kept you out of sight and kept you going in quiet. And now that you're coming out, you're unstoppable. So it's striking them like bricks. You are aware of who you are. You are aware of who is genuine and who is not. Additionally, you're pursuing your goals free from the burden of phony backing, coerced alliances, or parasites masquerading as allies. At one point, many questioned why you weren't receiving your chance. They believed that you were unworthy, unlucky, and unprepared. They were unaware, however, that your timing was always deliberate. Instead of rejection, you were being purified. Nothing and no one can stop what was always intended for you now that it's your time. Number 8, they are really guilty about their decision to choose comfort above development. Their lives seemed to be simpler, so they believed they were winning. They were at ease while you were rebuilding, trying, and failing. They avoided anything that involved actual risk, played things safe, and stuck to their tried and true routines. They also made fun of you at the time. They questioned, why put yourself through all that? After seeing your sacrifices, late nights, and disappointments, but now they're feeling the full force of it, since you changed while they remained the same. You welcomed difficulties, while others shunned them. You ventured into the unknown, while others remained in their comfort zone. They are now understanding that the same things that made you successful were the ones they fled from: development, hardship, and uncertainty. In actuality, they were laughing to cover up their own nervousness rather than because they were confident in you. They secretly admired your bravery. They hoped they were brave enough to take chances, to wager on themselves, to challenge themselves. However, they persuaded themselves that it was better to play it safe. And they're trapped now. They perceive stasis in their lives, the same unrealized potential, the same attitude, the same routines. You're outgrowing everything they believed was unachievable in the meanwhile. They are no longer able to ignore it. They can no longer claim that their approach was superior, since your achievement is now disproving their claims. That guilt too? They know they had the same opportunities as you, which is why it's weighty. They had equal access to opportunities and the same number of hours in a day. The only distinction? They were too afraid to pursue what you were prepared to fight for. Right now, they're trapped where they've always been, watching you ascend. They also realize in their hearts that things didn't have to be this way. Number 9, you're stronger without them now. Even if they never believed you would recover. They believed they had permanently damaged you. They believed that the suffering they inflicted would leave you paralyzed by self-doubt and unable to go on. They thought that if they were gone, you would become weaker because you would miss them, need their approval, and wish for them to come back. However, they made a mistake since you recovered rather than remained damaged. You rebuilt instead of falling apart. You're stronger than ever now. They are frightened by it. You see, they never really desired your departure. They wanted you to stay in the version of yourself that was dependent on them. The one who doubted your own value, accepted less, and put up with their abuse. They believed that their mind tricks, treachery, or desertion would cause irreversible harm. However, they were unaware that your suffering was really your rebirth, rather than your demise. Not only did healing aid in your recovery, but it also improved your eyesight. You can now see through their efforts to keep you under them, their manipulation, and their hollow words. The fog has dissipated. You are able to identify the mind games for what they were: guilt-tripping, gaslighting, and covert attempts to minimize you. You are no longer the same person who put up with it. Thus, it no longer works. And that's what's slamming into them. They are no longer necessary for you. They no longer have the same influence on you. People who just ever desired control are no longer the source of your need for closure. People who feigned not to understand you no longer need your explanations. Wounds that don't belong to you are no longer with you. They are now the ones who are grieving, because even if you have moved on from them, they remain the same, trapped in their habits, seeing your success and understanding too late that the person they attempted to destroy is now untouchable. Number 10. Your development serves as a mirror, making people confront their own lack of advancement. Their anger is directed at themselves, not at you. However, they choose to vent their displeasure on you rather than acknowledge that. They are reminded of all they failed to achieve each time you ascend, level up, or demonstrate that improvement is achievable. And it's a difficult pill to take. See, when everyone around you is stationary, it's simple to come up with excuses. When nobody is going above and beyond their comfort zone, it's simple to defend being cautious. But then you arrived. You continued to develop, learn, and grow while others remained in the same place. They are now unable to overlook the difference between their current selves and their potential selves. Your achievement is revealing as well as inspirational. They used to minimize your accomplishments, mock your aspirations, and scoff at your ambition. Not because they really believed you were insane, but rather because it made them feel better about achieving nothing. They persuaded themselves that some individuals are simply fortunate, that change is too difficult, and that success is unattainable. You've now shown, however, that it wasn't luck. It was self-control. It was a sacrifice. It was refusing to remain cozy. And the reason it's hitting them hard is because they were making excuses while you were taking chances. They were squandering time while you were investing in yourself. The disparity is now indisputable. However, they are angry with you. Rather than appreciating your progress, since acknowledging that you earned your success would imply acknowledging that they had the same chances but squandered them. Thus, they project, which is the simplest thing to do. They label you altered, fortunate, or conceited. It's simpler for them to minimize your trip than to confront their own stagnation. However, what is the reality? They stayed where they were. You didn't abandon them. Number 11. Although they believed they could change the story, the reality is now indisputable. To improve their own image, they believed they could change history, distort the facts, and control the narrative. The idea that they helped you succeed, that they advised you, or even that you owed them anything was what they wanted others to think. They made an effort to hide the conflict, the betrayals, and the times they made fun of you in private. The issue with falsehoods, however, is that they are incompatible with reality. They were first believed by some. Perhaps they presented themselves as the ones who always had faith in your ability to succeed. Perhaps they attempted to persuade others that they were your staunchest allies. Some even dared to claim to have contributed to the creation of what you did. But now that the truth is undeniable. Everything is falling apart. Your path is the evidence. The way they handled you is remembered. They recall how they discussed you while you were having difficulties. They recall the skepticism, the aside remarks, and the contemptuous demeanor. They are scurrying now. They're coming to the realization that your accomplishment speaks louder than any attempt to change the past. The fact that they cannot claim credit for something they never believed in is what is striking them like a ton of bricks. When it counted, they weren't on your side. When you needed help, they didn't provide it. They realize they weren't a part of the voyage, but they fervently want to be a part of the result. So now that you've arrived, their guilt is choking them. They made a mistake, however, since your progress occurred despite them, rather than because of them. And the truth will always prevail, regardless of how much they attempt to change the past. The instant they made the decision to mistrust you, they were removed from your tale. They must now deal with that remorse. Number 12. They will always regret how they treated you. They assumed you would always be present. They believed that you would never go even if they ignored you, dismissed you, or took you for granted. They thought they could treat you any way they wanted and still have your presence, your commitment, and your energy. Since they lost something rare and cannot get it back, it is now striking them like bricks. You see, people don't appreciate you when they believe they can reach you at will. They believe that you will continue to show up, extend forgiveness, and wait for them to recognize your value. They thought you were weak because you were nice. They believed they could try their luck because of your forbearance. They never understood, however, that they were the issue, not you. And because you leveled up instead of just walking away, remorse is now eating them alive. You recovered, you developed. When they had the opportunity, you transformed into everything they couldn't see in you. They are now unable to avoid the world they created for themselves. They made a mistake that cannot be undone. The worst thing? They perceive that you are now valued by others. They see your success without them. They see someone else appreciating the exact attributes they disregarded. And because it's too late, the remorse becomes intolerable at that point. The past cannot be changed. They are unable to reverse their errors. They cannot go back and treat you in a different manner. They were mistaken to believe that you would always be an option. They must now bear the burden of knowing that they lost something unique, not as a result of your actions, but rather of their treatment of you. And remorse like that, it never goes away. 13. You turned into what they've always desired to be, but were too scared to go for. Although they won't acknowledge it, they have always secretly respected you for the bravery it required to get there, as much as for what you have accomplished. The way you didn't shrink to fit in with others, the way you moved differently, and the way you took chances while others played it safe. They saw you overcome the constraints they were too scared to question, and they were angry with you for it, rather than supporting you. The fact is, however, that it was never about you. Their own unrealized potential was the source of their annoyance, jealousy, and disparaging remarks. What they hoped they had in themselves, they saw in you. They wanted to be audacious. They wanted to have no fear. They wanted to pursue a more ambitious goal. However, they were hesitant when it came time to take that jump. Comfort was their choice. Security was their choice. They decided on terror. And now, seeing you succeed serves as a heartbreaking reminder of what could have been. Because you demonstrated that it was feasible. You disproved the justifications they used for their own inactivity. After seeing you generate possibilities out of nothing, they are unable to convince themselves that success is reserved for a select few. When you've already done it, they can't say it's impossible. And that insight? They're being struck like bricks by it. You see, individuals may either be inspired or resentful when they don't follow their aspirations. And far too many people choose for resentment. They question, who does this person think they are? Rather than, how can I grow too? They use your trip as an excuse to destroy you, rather than as a source of inspiration because it's simpler to be angry with you than to confront their own concerns.